Good morning, everybody. It's April 9th. You see the big 9 there. And I'm not trying to calm down Epidemic Sound Instrumental to some reasonable level so that I can hear myself think. You ever heard that expression before? I can't hear myself think. Having a little sip of my warm coffee. Used to be hot coffee. It's only warm coffee at the moment. Producers, can you add me to the... Hello. There's a full screen of my profile. Profiles encourage. And for some reason or other, I'd see if I can. Let's see if that's visible. This is live TV, folks. That's the time in the corner. Oh, there. Oh, my God. Let's turn it down. There we go. It's another iPad tuned into the the atomic clock. Now, if we add, I have to move this over a little bit. There we go. Now you can see. All right, one more thing. There we go. Yeah. I liked. That's a nice display there showing. Can I be on the right side, please? You know how sensitive I am. Swap cameras is the action. The thing that you do. So the Supreme Court has been standing behind Trump's effort to deport people that are worthy of being deported, which is all these bad guys. Let's see what oh yeah, you can see these knobs. You can almost see my soundboard. You can see the top end of it, where I control these volumes. Trying to put Epidemic Sound Instrumental in some kind of a reasonable volume level. The interesting thing about streaming, let's get the time back in. Yeah, and my world famous I've had that Shure microphone from the days of CB radio. I had that hooked in. I had a CB radio in my bedroom, My call sign was KOD 6614. You had to have a call sign. And that was issued by the United States government. That's my radio, if I get on the radio. So you can, yeah, try to get that. Let me turn that down a little bit. Yeah, get that squared off. There we go. There we go. They got so many different ways to adjust that little. It's the tiniest little. I should show you with some kind of a mirror what that looks like. Of course, I could mirror with my iPhone, but I have it off because if I have it on, it tries to, because it's got cameras. The system then tries to, what do you call it? Register its cameras with Ecamm Live. And there will be a time when I do that. But it will not be today, if you don't mind. Yeah. There you go. So, I got going here at just a couple minutes after 8. I promised. I try. I had a real internet frenzy. I couldn't get my computer to properly. Oops. I couldn't get it to, get on the internet. I could get my iPads on, I could get my iPhone on, all my iPads to recognize my network, but I couldn't get, I got my computer to recognize the network, but I couldn't get my computer to properly register with the servers going through my router and my modem. My router. But I instituted, I'll show you, I have to show you on this device. CyberGhost, there it is. You see it, CyberGhost? I already have an account. Oh, gosh. There we go. There we are. So now you see I am connected to CyberGhost. And the important thing is I don't think I can expand this. You have to look carefully. You notice it says the VPN IP at 102.129.152.224. So what happens is my device, this Apple device, let's do this. Yeah. I'm gonna make I did a print screen of this. So that you can see that, at least. And I'll go to photos. So now you see the VPN number. So what happens is my iPad, each device has its own, you can, with one annual subscription, which you pay $50 a year or something or other to essentially protect 7 devices. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 in front of me. 2, 4, 5. So anytime I get on the internet at home here, there you go. You can see it now. See it now. Yeah. And so what happens is my network, my local area, my network, let's see, what do you call it? Ooh, my Wi-Fi network. Got Wi-Fi ricocheting all around this apartment with a password so that my neighbors can't steal my bandwidth or they can jump in, but they're going to get blocked by CyberGhost. CyberGhost is it's a new utility so that when I get into the internet, it goes through, I get in my Wi-Fi, and then the Wi-Fi is connected to CyberGhost, and CyberGhost is connected to the internet, and the shin bone's connected to the elbow, and it shows a VPN of 102.129.152.224. You see WireGuard in the bottom there, the protocol, the little, which you would call an applet, a little tiny application. It's not so little. WireGuard. It's a protocol. The protocol is something that's like built in to CyberGhost. And it's kind of coded right into the code. So they call it a protocol. It's a procedure that it uses so that people that are not supposed to be in our network doesn't get into our network. I know CyberGuard is working because I have this yellow. Apparently, someone in the community of CyberGhost likes the color yellow. You see, everything's, if it's not black and white, it's yellow. So if I push them, well, of course, this is a photograph. Yeah. I did this so you could see what being connected to CyberGhost is all about. So you can go to your app store. Let's see. Let me go to the App Store, and I'm going to go to in the very top here. There's like a little magnifying glass, and I'm going to type in CYBER, Cyber. See what's. Oh, you can't see. Producers, would you go full screen, please? There we go. You see in the very top there? It says Cyber, not the very top, CyberGhost VPN. Just push that one. Touch screen. Yep. So I'm I'm going to touch one of these. I'm going to touch the right one. The left one has this little ADV next to it. This is the actual one. I don't want to click open because it's already open. And it's got a 4.2 rating. It should have a 5.0 rating in my opinion. So you get a free trial. I don't need to touch that because I'm already there. But I'll touch this, and that way you can see some of the protect your online privacy. I'm taking a little time on this morning because it's kind of like important. And if there's anything you want to spend, $4 a month on, this is it. One tap connection to CyberGhost. You pick your country. No spyware gets through CyberGhost. It blocks ad trackers and malware. And you can protect 7 devices simultaneously. And Business Insider, PC Magazine, CNET, The Guardian, Wired, the New York Times, they've all rated this. And I can tell you from, here's some reactions from people. Here's a lady, an American-speaking lady. We spend a lot. The middle one here. So we spend a lot of time at our home in Mexico. Without CyberGhost, which works perfectly all the time, I'd get everything in Spanish. So, if you pick your country, it'll pick an American server, so that when you look at your content that you're downloading, it'll take it from the United States server perspective, and you'll get things in English. Whereas if you didn't have CyberGhost, it would pick up, the local MAC address, if you will, in the country that you're in. And you'll end up, improving your Spanish. This guy's been using it for 5 years, never had any issues. The nice thing about I've tried some of these VPN means virtual private network. That's basically what that stands for. And, back in the early days, virtual private networks slowed down your throughput so much that, I turned it off. I said, I have to wait until they improve this technology somewhat. So, but I tried this out. I turned it on 6 months ago. I read a review somewhere, and I said, I need to, let me give this a shot. You get a free trial period. So I figured, let me do the free trial period and see what happens. And, it's good. It's outstanding. It's fast. It doesn't slow down your internet connection like it used to a couple years ago. It was like an overhead and going up and going down and going through their server and back through my, it was just a lot of coming and going, apparently, and it was slow. Well, they figured out how to make everything that it does to make it do it faster. Yeah, so that's what that's all about. Yeah. My ice maker failed, so I had to, I'm going to replace it at Home Depot. Yeah. It's a Magic Chef unit. Let's see here. There it is. No, here it is up here. $126. Or $118 plus tax. Shipping is free. It's 20 pounds, so they don't give it away. Track delivery. Where is it? The tracking number. You can see the number there. And since it doesn't have one Z in front of it, it's probably UPS. Let's give it a shot. Let's see where it is. Just touch it and be patient. It's on the way. And let's see. Manage delivery. Yeah, I'm not going to manage it. Let's see. Get updates. I think I'm getting updates. Let's view the travel history. It's 20.1 pounds. I'm getting it a day early. It's coming tomorrow. Right? Let's see. No. When's it coming here? Yes, it's coming Thursday. Sometime between 11 and 3. Good. So the big news is if you remember, I'm going to remember you in case you don't remember. Oops, I think I went too far. That's yesterday's sunrise, and I'm looking for, that's a picture of an attic fan. Let's get rid of that. Let me just get rid of that while I'm here. Trash can. Anyway, the president showed two placards of tariffs. Here they are. If you remember that, see, China. Their tariffs on us was 67%. So Trump said, all right, we're a kind and gentler nation, so we're going to charge you 34%. And then China just sent notice back. They're going to increase our tariffs by 34%. And then Trump's going to go back to them and say, okay, you guys, it's going to 100%. I'll bring it to 200%. We'll just shut you down, you want to access our markets, then drop your 67% tariff and we'll drop ours. How about we drop them both to zero? Then we don't have any trade war. If your products are better, they'll sell. If they're not better, they won't sell. It's as simple as that. In your own country, you have a protectionist tariff on so that you won't allow our products to come in at par, at whatever our companies decided is a fair market value for whatever their goods or services are. And that's how these tariffs work. It's like an import tax, and every country has an account with the United States government, and we have a due to account and a due from account. And as we collect import taxes from China, then it goes into the due from account. And if they import stuff into our country, then it's a due to. And China, we assess China a 67% tariff. It's a T word, tax, tariff. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But that's, South Korea is another one. Ooh. If you look at that one, I'll do a little expando right there in the middle. See South Korea? It's in blue. 50%. They're charging us 52% tariff on everything that we are shipping into South Korea. They add to it a 50% tax. It's like a duty charge between countries. And then, of course, they can mark up the product or discount the products to absorb the tax or pass it on to the customers. So if we build a $1,000 TV and it's a really good, or display, let's say a computer display, then and ship it to South Korea by whatever means, as it comes in, their equivalent of their State Department will assess a 50% tariff, and that $1,000 TV then costs $1,500 to anybody that lives in South Korea that's importing a product from the United States. So since we are a kind and gentler nation, if their tax is 50%, we'll assess 25%, just to be a kind and gentler nation, as Trump calls it. So think of this, what do you call it? All the TVs and watches and Samsung. How about Samsung? All the phones they make, everything that they attempt, everything that they actually export, or everything that we import from South Korea, like Samsung big screen TVs. I'm looking at, and it's not on because I'm in my little electronic cocoon here. In my little space here. I almost knocked over my coffee. Not worried about the coffee. I just don't want to ruin my nice mug. Which I just figured out how to clean my mug. You know, they recommend you don't put them in the dishwasher for some reason. But there's a little, you know, those little bags of what do you call it? Cleaning. You know, like if you do a load of laundry and you throw in three pods full of concentrated cleaning material, then that dissolves into the washing machine water and cleans the clothing. Yeah. Well, OxyClean, you've probably seen. It comes in a white bag, and I bought a bag of like 40 of those for $15, whatever it cost. So you get these little pods of a very strong whitening. You wouldn't put it in, I don't think they recommend it for color clothing because it'll probably bleach. I think it's got calcium hypochlorite. You got sodium hypochlorite, which is a liquid. You pour it in your swimming pool, and it, you know, gives you free chlorine, which it's not free. It's a free hypochlorine. It's a chemistry term for it. The chlorine radicals, the chlorine molecules, if you will attach themselves to all the bacteria in your water, and it'll make your water crystal clean and give it that blue look, you know, instead of that green look. Anyway, this Oxy is a white powder, and to me, you know, so the liquid version of this, you know, high octane chlorine, I call it a high octane chlorine, you know, material. So you got sodium hypochlorite, which is a liquid, or you got calcium hypochlorite, which is a powder. That when you add to the pool water, if you will, it produces the same free radical chlorine atoms, which tends to sterilize the water. It's really a very powerful. You don't want to put that in your bathtub. It won't feel good on your skin, you know, to say the least. But if you fill up your mug with hot water, you know, just out of your tap, you know, 140 degree hot water, piping hot water out of your tap, let it run a little bit so it gets real hot. Fill up your mug to about a half inch from the top. This right here, right about where that stainless steel band is. So just imagine that on the inside. The whole inside is stainless steel. It's a sealed system, and they evacuate it. So they pump out all the air so that it's like a thermos, a double-walled stainless steel thermos. Well, the inside of this mug gets a little nasty because, you know, the caffeine, you heard of a coffee stain? Well, it stains the inside of the stainless steel. And when you look inside of it, it makes it look kind of nasty. So if you fill one of these guys up, rinse it out, and then fill it up with hot water to about a half inch below the top edge of the stainless steel mug with really hot water, and then you drop one of those little bags of calcium hypochlorite. I'm sure that's the chemical, among other things. I'll get the bag and take a picture of it. I don't want to bring it in here because I don't want all those free chlorine things zooming around and lousing up, my contacts, my keyboard, and any of my electronic devices. Electronic devices and chlorine, free radical chlorine, doesn't get along very well. And if you can smell chlorine, you don't want it near your stuff. You need to evacuate that from your living space. So it comes in a bag, and you can seal the bag, which I have sealed the bag. You seal it with your fingers. It's like a zipper without the thing that you need to zip with. It's like a Ziploc bag, yeah. Anyway, South Korea, I'm sure, is getting ready to have a chat with the Trumper. These foreign countries have been ripping us. I mean, look at what they're charging us, so that our companies basically have access to the population in their countries. United Kingdom, my God, you kidding me? So they're charging us 10%, just a little 10% fee. It adds up to billions of dollars a year, so that people in the United Kingdom can buy U.S. products. Of course, if there's demand for our U.S. products in the United Kingdom, United Kingdom stores would, in theory, United Kingdom websites might advertise goods from the United States. So the warehouses of U.S. products in the United Kingdom have been assessed a 10% tariff when they go through customs. The customs. Those are the fellas that make note of the value of the products that are being imported into their country from the United States. And then, they charge the due to and the due from account 10%. I'm sure it's a little more complicated than that, but and the same thing coming this way. If we look at South Korea, 50%, we're going to charge them 20%. So all the Sanyo products that come in as of midnight last night. So people were rushing like crazy to, get. Of course, they can't rush too fast because, those big floating vessels that carry 20 to 30,000 of these containers. You got all them Sanyo TVs sealed up in a container, and they probably got 20, 30, 40, 50 containers worth of, Samsung TVs worth, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a piece. And all of a sudden that $2,000 TV, cost $500 more than it did yesterday. Because at midnight, at 12:00 a.m. today, everything imported from South Korea will be assessed a 25% tariff. And in theory, the due to and due from account is charged, and then, the Customs Department gets, goes through to the company itself that imported the device, and the number gets added to the price of the product when it gets into Best Buy or wherever. And I paid about $2,000 for this 85-inch TV that's hanging on my wall with super sturdy brackets, because it weighs 205 pounds. But it is a spectacular TV, I must admit. Yeah. So page 1 of this is some of the larger tariffed countries that we experience. Bangladesh, 74%. Vietnam, why is that on the top of the list? You ever hear of Nike sneakers? Guess where Nike gets their Nike sneakers from when they're trying to schlep them in the United States to have access to the United States customers. All the potential customers that are buying Nike sneakers, we are now assessing them 46%. So $200 sneakers becomes $292. Yeah, that 46% upcharge is what we're basically assessing all the Vietnam companies that are attempting to access our population of people that are trying to buy sneakers. Now, the sneakers that are already here, they're already here. We can't go back in time and collect tariffs on products that have already come across the customs. Once you get by customs, that's it. Well, we were 0 on that, and now we're 46%. And guess who's banging on the door with the president? They want to negotiate. Oh, yeah, we'll drop our tariff. Well, good. That's the whole idea. You charge us, we're going to charge you. But we're going to give you a 50% discount right now because those tariffs are in effect. Immediately, now. Yesterday and the day before, when I announced it a week ago, we're charging you 46%. Well, we'll go back to South Korea. Yeah. So, that $2,000 TV now costs $2,500. South Korea says, "Oh, we'll drop our tariff. Just give us a couple of days. We're trying to ship." And there are a lot of, I was going to say schlep, and there are a lot of American, customers that are in South Korea that want to buy U.S. products. South Korea is assessing everything we're trying to deliver to residents of South Korea at 50% tariff, upcharge, duty. I mean, these names have specific definitions, but it's like a tax. You know, you can call it a couch. You can call it whatever the hell you want. A tariff is a form. It's an import tax. All right? How about that? It's not like a federal income tax. You know, it's not an income tax. It's a tax on stuff. It's like a sales tax. Okay? But they haven't sold anybody yet. So they don't call it a sales tax. You know, could be called a value-added tax. But, you know, those things are assessed when a consumer buys it. There are a number of countries that have VAT, a VAT, a value-added tax. And most countries that have VATs, value-added taxes, that is instead of an income tax. So you get taxed based on your consumption of products and services rather than just flat out paying based on your income. I like that because, you know, that way everyone pays. You know, if you don't earn a lot of money, then you don't pay a lot of that. If you earn a lot of money and you spend it, you're going to pay a lot of that. A lot of money. The VAT is a value-added tax that gets paid to the United States government in this case. So I'd rather have let's say an 8%, 7.5%, 8% value-added tax when I spend money rather than the government taking it even before I get it. You know, I mean, the companies are essentially required to take some of your income based on how many exemptions you claim on your W-2, right? Your W-4, I guess it's filled out on your W-4, is a thing that you fill out when you're getting employed. And the selection you make ends up on your W-2 when you do your taxes. It tells, you know, companies generate these W-2s so that you know exactly how much money you made. Those W-2s are transmitted to the IRS, and they're transmitted to you and me. So the IRS is getting the same information you're getting from the company about you. So be careful that you don't, you know, change the numbers, because then they'll know, you know, that this is a tax return that gets flagged for possible review by a human being instead of a computer system. They generally don't bother with the you and me's of the world, because unless you're a billionaire or a millionaire, you know, unless you got real big numbers, it's not worth their time. So they go after the bigger fish, you know, and they basically audit your return and look for, you know, copies of receipts, you know, that kind of thing. Or at least they look face to face with somebody across the desk from said examiner. You can send your accountant, as long as they've signed the 8537. You know, there's a form that you have to sign that says William C. Barnett CPA will represent me, you know, in Fort Lauderdale when you examine the records of James Wilson. So this IRS employee sits across his desk. We sit, you know, opposite that person. You don't have to go. As long as, Bill Barnett has got this form signed by the taxpayer, and then he can hand that form. The IRS won't talk to anybody about your tax situation, status, whatever the hell you want to talk about, where you're sitting in front of the IRS. You have to, has Mr. Wilson signed the 8537 form? Whatever the number is in that form. It's a 4-digit number, and I think it begins with an 8. Yeah. You have to sign it every year. Yeah. Anyone that's going to represent you regarding your tax return. The best way to do your taxes, which I'm going to do starting maybe this afternoon. Over the weekend for sure. I'm going to do my tax return. I'm going to do, then I got to do Brennan and Daniel's tax return. I'll get them all done before, this is the 9th. 9 and 7 is 16. So Tuesday, I guess, is the day. Midnight. You must file your tax return before midnight Tuesday. So, yeah. So, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I got 4 days. I'm going to get it done in those 4 days. And if for some reason or other I don't have, the W-2s that get issued by companies, they mail them out. Well, if the mailman doesn't deliver them to you, you don't have them. There is a certain percentage of mail that gets delivered to the wrong person. I get it all the time. I get other people's mail. I circle the address, the street, for example, or the apartment number. 8. Sometimes, I get mail from unit 821 instead of 812. They have dyslexia and they flip the digits, or instead of 812, I got mail from 218, apartment 218, which is a commercial. It's a lawyer. It's a law firm in the building. Everything on the second floor is commercial. So if they're totally dyslexic and they see apartment 812, they send my mail to apartment 218. And I get mail from 218. Not all the time, just occasionally. You just you think of all the permutations of, these guys are in a hurry and they try to bundle mail up as fast as possible. And since my telephone number and address have been in the public eye ever since I've been teaching at FAU, because I have a website that I use for, all the photographs that are taken that I use in the class and I use for other purposes. All my information is there for view. And what would that information be? You see that logo right there next to the thing that says audio note? It says Wilson Pick. It's right below the caret. The caret is in the very top there. And UPS, the little house, will go right down until you see the next icon that's in this row with Tesla, Wilson Picks, Audio Note, Safari. It's like that second line of icons which you can touch, because remember, this device is touchscreen. Now I have it connected, into Ecamm Live, into one of the ports on the side of my trusty MacBook Pro Air version of the MacBook Pro. All solid state memory. Let's see if I can feel any temperature. Just a slight, the temperature of that is like, I just happen to have my trusty thermometer here. Let's okay. Let's turn the light down a little bit. It's a little too bright in there. There you go. You can see. I just took the temperature. Let's take the temperature of my iPhone. There you go. It's 72 degrees. With the air, that's 70.3 inside here. Okay. Now if I just wave this around, back and forth over this strip, because the processor with silicone cement and all that, there you go, the average temperature is 93.7 degrees. And the average temperature down here is 88. So the processor and the memory chips, data is, all this digital data is flowing all around in this thing. There we go. Let's just 95. See, I don't know if you can see. You can't see that. My hand is in the way, of course. As I'm going across, 86, 84, 84, 84, 84, 87, 89, 95. You see, it's 95 degrees. When I get over the vertical position of like the keys 3, 4, 5, right there is where that processor is glued. It's attached, with some kind of a bracket, and between the brackets, instead of having like air spaces, they put some silicone, heat conductive silicone goop. I am officially out of coffee. When you suck the straw and it starts to gurgle, that sucking sound. Yeah, I need to make another cup of coffee. I tell you what, those K-Cup coffee makers are just spectacular. This 20-ounce mug fits right underneath there. I have to tilt it in underneath the little end of the K-Cup receptacle that receives the K-Cup thing, and then you push it down, and then you push the start button, and you get a marvelous cup of coffee. Yeah. I should really send one of those to Robin. She's got a K-Cup thing in there, but she needs to throw it away. It's a terribly stupid little thing that you got to pour water in the back and the front. It's all like slimy and God. Throw it. Don't even bother cleaning out. Just throw it immediately. Dump out the water and put it in the trash receptacle. Wherever you put things in the trash receptacle. I just wrap it in a bag and throw it in the garbage. I don't bother with what kind of garbage it is. Yeah, fine. Put aluminum cans in the receptacle that in the yellow receptacle that they pick up. because they can recycle the recycle bins. Yeah. Aluminum, when you extract aluminum from aluminum ore, when you extract aluminum ore from dirt and you sift it out, whatever, it takes electricity. It takes a lot of electricity that is put through the aluminum ore slurry, if you will, and it transforms and extracts the aluminum from the aluminum ore, but it requires massive amounts of electricity. So when you see a refinery, an aluminum ore refinery, ORE, aluminum ore is extracted. Aluminum is extracted from aluminum ore using massive amounts of electricity. There's probably no other extraction method of any, like iron, from iron ore, does not use as much energy as the extraction of aluminum from aluminum ore. So when they want to collect all these cans, because a lot of these cans, soda cans, beverage cans, use aluminum containers. And the reason why that is, aluminum doesn't rust, meaning aluminum doesn't oxidize with oxygen to the point, or aluminum doesn't react with water to the point where it oxidizes the aluminum, like it would if you had a cast iron soda can, if there could be such a thing. There wouldn't be such a thing because it would crack and it'd be too heavy. Iron is heavy. Aluminum is a lighter metal, literally a metal. It's on the periodic table. Periodic table. Periodic table. Periodic table of elements. That's even better. Okay. We have all kinds of images. Let's see which one we'll pick. Let's pick this one. Because, what does it have right there? Aluminum. Al. And then PB is lead. That's something else that's extracted from a mining procedure. We're going to go back and we're going to look at the actual periodic table, which, let's see how this one looks. Yeah, this one looks good. There we go. Periodic table of elements. I was a chemistry major. And you can look across aluminum. Let's see. You look across the periodic table and you see number 13 there. Aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur. Anyway, so boron, aluminum. This is the number of electrons that are in the very outer band. If you look at the atom of aluminum, atomic weight of 13. So you can see this little, see metals. Metals are all the color coding. In this little graphic. And aluminum just happens to fit. And the characters, as a metal. And then you have non-metals, which is all the green ones and the purple ones. Those are non-metals. Well, yeah, and brighten that up a little bit. Anyway, so this is the periodic table. When I was a chemistry major, a long time ago, I used to know an awful lot about the periodic table. And I can tell you that I've forgotten a lot of it. And there's a lot of new ones, I don't even recognize. I may not even be able to pronounce them. Like seaborgium, number 106 there. Never heard of that one. Seaborgium. Seaborgium. Mm-hmm. And look at that. See, tungsten, the letter W. There's a good one right here. Titanium. That is stronger than iron, and real close to the weight of aluminum. This right here tells you the number. There's 22 electrons, right? And there's 22 protons inside. And 10, 22. And you see if you add up all the electrons, there's 22. There's 2 in the inner ring, and then there's 6 and 10, and then 2 in the outer ring. Which, they're spinning around the nucleus. The protons are inside the nucleus, and then you got all these electrons supposedly rotating around the nucleus. And you see, you go over here to aluminum, 2, 8, and 3. You add 2, 8, and 3, add them together, what do you get? 13. All right. It's a match. The atomic weight of aluminum is 26.98. And that's basically, this may be a coincidence, but you add the electrons and the neutrons together, and you're going to get 26. And then why is it a little bit more? Well, because you have, the nucleus itself. The infrastructure of the nucleus adds the 0.9815. That's a non-scientific definition of that, but anyway, I'm sure all the chemistry people on the planet that listens to this conversation are cringing in pain because I do not know what I'm talking about. Let's see, here we go. We'll touch this one. Loading the chart. Loading. It's loading. See, loading. Content not available. What are you talking about? Why is the content not available? Let's go to this one. There you go. There's a periodic table. And you can see there's aluminum, 26.98. I like the other one better because it showed us that little graphic in the middle. I guess it's this one. Yeah. And it tells you the rings. You got 3 rings. And the outermost ring, so you got 2, 8, and 3. Yep. So you got 3. It's like a planet with 13 moons flying around this planet, and inside the planet are 13 protons. And the electrons that are the electron moons that are rotating around the nucleus of aluminum, you've got the innermost band of 2, then you got the second band of 8, and then 3 electrons in the outermost band. That's what that 283 is all about. And everybody in this row, gallium, indium, thallium. See, the outermost ring is 3 electrons. That's what's common about this whole, everything going vertical has 3 electrons in the outermost band. Except when you get to these guys here. Not too sure what's everybody in this band, which is a bunch of elements that I've not heard of. Looks like the outermost band is 2 on every one of them. Yeah. So this is like an expanded view of this right here. They didn't want to louse up the whole rest of this chart, which is pre-1980, when this chart was made up. But all those guys down there underneath the double blue lines, or double purple lines, came in, somewhere between let's see, from the 60s. This is not a 1960s periodic table, because these guys right down here I've never heard of before. But with all everything that's going on, they've discovered, these additional, that's both those charts, which came to be in July of 2016. You can see the date up on the top there. Interesting. Element 120 discovery, possibly after titanium beam breakthrough. So this is something that popped up. But there's aluminum. Yep. Yes, sir, Bob. Can I grab this as a photograph? I can do a print screen. Let's just do a print screen. And it gives me a 3 million pixel. I can show you how many pixels you get. Let's just take the green area. There we go. Get to tap that little bar there. All right, done. save to photos. Then I'll go to my photo album and get rid of this and come right down or up. Up, down, where's the beginning of this? April 5th. I'm moving in the right direction. Wow, there it is. Let's brighten it up a little bit. There we go. There we go, see that? Let's get up on the top here and check. See, if you get too bright, you burn out some of the things that are in the background there. Let's just do that. There we go. There we are. There's the VPN. That's there. Anyway, so that's how I wanted to see. So if I pull up on the image, what do we get? That's a 7.9 megabyte image. 2666 by 1514 pixels. You multiply one by the other, you get 4 megapixels. Almost right on the nose. You can multiply it out. It's just a the graphic of some story. It just happened to have aluminum. And we were talking about aluminum, so it caught my eye. But that's how a lot of these, Brooks Koepka's wife, whatever her name is. And yeah, this is the Apple Intelligence. There you go. You got all those formulas and all that calculus stuff. Supreme Court allows Trump to terminate the 16,000 probationary federal workers. Now what that means is these aren't workers that necessarily did anything wrong. I mean, maybe they did, but they haven't been. In other words, that probationary isn't, generally is not the result of someone that misbehaved on the job site, for example. Probation, in government speak, when you fill out an FS 171 form, which is your application for employment, I actually filled out an application for employment to be hired by the Division of Banking, the FDIC. There was a thing called the Resolution Trust Corporation, which was formed by the U.S. government to, process and dispose of, sell a bunch of assets that were seized, by the closure of banks. There were a number of banks that closed, in the 1980 something period. So in 1988, 89, I filled out an FS 171 form, which is, anybody that's a government employee knows what that is. It's a multi-page form that you fill out about your background. You were born here, here's your birthday, and here's your name and your address and your phone number and your email address, and what was your first job, and who was your boss, and from this date to that date, and you go through and fill out, answer a bunch of questions. Have you ever been convicted? Have you ever been you go through 10 or 20 questions. And then all that data is then distributed to the hiring manager, that is interested in hiring people with certain credentials. Well, my application, rose to the occasion of review by some senior people in the Division of Banking of the United States government. So they said, Jimmy, we'd like to meet with you. I said, well, marvelous. So they sent me a ticket, a round-trip ticket to Dallas, Texas, which is where the hiring person, they wanted me they moved me to Dallas, Texas, all expenses paid. We fly back, I could fly back and forth 3 different times to look at stuff, housing. My wife would also get up to 3 round trips. They said 1. I said, no, it's got to be 3. So they agreed to 3. Yeah. I said, hey, look, you're hiring me to do work, right? So I'm going to go around trying to find some housing. She's going to fly out and visit with me. And then if we can't find something we like, she's going to fly back. I'm going to stay here and keep working for you, right? And then I'm going to get some more stuff for her to look at. Then she's going to fly back out. Yeah. So we need 3 round trips for both of us, because I'm not buying anything without her seeing it. So how's that? Is that okay? They finally said okay. Anyway, I went through the whole process. So I know anyway, so what they, circling back to terminating 16,000 probationary federal workers. So during your first year, from the date they hired you, you're on probation. Like when you get hired from a company and you're on probation for a 90-day probation? Well, in government, in the world of government, it's a year. And that, for example, in the Department of Banking, the FBI examines, there's like 7 or 8 federal agencies that investigate me, I should say, including the FBI. So one of the senior ladies, stared me down and said, the FBI will be examining this FS-171 form. They will go through it line by line, make sure that it's accurate. I said, okay, that's fine. Have you done anything wrong? Apparently they've had a few people that they've tried to hire that, got bounced out by the FBI. Well, see, that FBI report takes 4 or 5 months. So they hire you, they want you to start work right away, because they got stuff that needs to get done. So they say, it could be 5 months from now if there's something, in your background that might kick you out. Like they come up with some examples. Have you ever caused a loss, a loan loss to a bank that was actually, funded by the FDIC because of the loan that you defaulted on? And if it was a company, did you own? And if a company went under and caused a loss to a bank, and then the bank was purchased by acquired or seized by the FDIC, and that asset was in the pool of loans that, the defaulted loans, and if you owned 10% or more of that company, that would be a line item that we probably have to, maybe terminate your employment. I said, no. I said, I was a partner in a property that was 9.2%, and it went into default for some reason. I was just a small partner, so I wasn't in a control situation. But I don't think the bank, it wasn't a matter of a bank closure. The bank, might have suffered a loss, but the bank is in business today, and there was no loss that was covered by the, FDIC insurance policy. FDIC is an insurance policy. And I said, would that cause a problem? No, because you said 9.2%. It's got to be 10% or over. I said, no, 9.2. But the FDIC did not, was not called upon to recover the loss in the bank's portfolio. They just wrote it off. So it came out of the bank's profit that year, or earnings that year, or their capital. And I was a minority partner. Yeah. He said, no, 9.2, you're good. 10% or more, and it would have been paid by the FDIC. That's a problem. I said, no FDIC and 9.2. So I said, that's the only thing that, and it's on my form here. You look on page 7 where it was. I said, see, 9.2%. That was my, in that LLC, that's where my ownership level was. And I was not an officer or a director of that company. I was just a limited partner trying to make money on that deal, and it didn't pan out. So my investment went to zero also. So anyway, that's the FS 171. Anyway, so that's a 4, 5, 6 month thing. So they warned me, if we're disposed on hiring you, that's why you're here. And I just want to bring that up, because you asked, what is the risk of you? Because once you get past the 1 year period, then you go from an LG to an LL, and you're going to be LG, 15.2, I think it was. So you'll be supervising other employees. So that means if you're a 14, that's the highest level for a non-manager. But when you get in level 15, that's considered a manager. And you're going to be on the senior credit committee. So in theory, you're managing people. They tried to, we first started talking about a certain salary bracket. And she said, okay, she was the director of, Fed District 5 or whatever, Federal Reserve District 5. Oh boy. Like Atlanta is number 6 and New York is number 2. It's not number 5. It might be number 4. Anyway, someone can tell me what the Fed District is for Dallas. It's the headquarters for a Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Anyway, could be 4. I think 5 is like Kansas City as you go across the nation. In California, it's Fed District 12, I think Colorado may be 11. I think Texas may be, I'm going to guess at 4. Anyway, it takes up to a year. You're on probation for a year, and then a year plus 1 day, and then instead of you being, it's LG and LL. I'm going to say you go from an LG to an L, or maybe you're an LL. L, like the letter L. You go from an LG, an LL to an LG. I'll have to, I don't remember. It was one way or the other. So for the first year, you're on probation. And a year plus a day, you're not on probation. It's the equivalent of the 90-day probation if you were being employed by a company, because they generally don't do FBI checks, and the check might not be as detailed as a report, as apparently when this one to the division of the Federal Reserve, because you're being hired essentially into the Federal Reserve system. And they check you out, and they write a very detailed report. I mean, they call your neighbors when you were 10, it's almost, a combination of your background and a passport. You add up all these different kind of licenses that you get. Yeah, it's a very detailed report. And as long as, things match up with what you got on your FS 171, you shouldn't have a problem. And but you're still, you're an LG 15.2, for the year, and you're on probation until for the first year of your employment. We have no reason to believe that you would not be here longer than a year, except if you got kicked out by the FBI. Because they wouldn't sign off on your background. That's we do have candidates that get, rejected. I said, do you get a chance to, chat with them before, in case they made a mistake? They don't make mistakes, and I guess there is an appeal process. I said, oh boy. I said, look, there's nothing, I'm fine. You can see I'm an executive officer of a bank. I've gone through all these examinations. She said, well, that's fine. That's why we're hiring you. Because you have this marvelous banking background, and you're also a developer. You've done both, so that's a unique quality that we're interested in. That's what tweaked our attention in your particular background. I said, oh, perfect. So we agreed on a pay level, and it required to be in the 15s, because the top level of 1410, it's 14.1, then 2, 3, 4, it goes up to 1410, and then after 1410, it goes to 15.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Oh, geez. A friend of mine was worked for the U.S. Customs, like 15 or 20 years, good. And he was like a 9.3 or something. He wasn't here I'm being hired as a 15 something. He said, how the hell, what the? I don't know. He said, I've been here 20 years, I'm a 9.3. Working for the U.S. Customs Department. Jeez. So, it's always a matter of, when you get hired in, and, when you get hired into a company, you really want to get hired in at the right level. Forget government. Any time you get hired in, you try to get the maximum level you can, because that is the starting point from which you elevate, year after year. Assuming you're going to stay there, a number of years. You don't want to keep jumping around different jobs. So if you carefully pick your next employment opportunity, you got to get the right salary. You want to get your right title, the position in the organization. If you can be so picky. Anyway, so that was my experience. I did not accept that job. I took a job being the senior lending officer of a bank in Boca Raton. It was called Boca Bank. Yeah. And one of the ingredients of the compensation package that attracted me as opposed to taking the Dallas job. In hindsight, I should have taken the Dallas job. Yeah, it was not one of my better decisions. I took the Boca Bank job, but after that, then I got with Phil Motter. He hired me, and then we bought, we bought the Florida First International Bank of Hollywood, and I was on the board of directors of that bank for like 11 or 12 years. So that was an exciting experience and opportunity, buying a bank as a vice chairman of the board of a bank holding company, dealing with the Federal Reserve and dealing with the state of Florida, meeting with all those people and negotiating the contract to buy the bank. And oh boy, it's detailed, complicated. But if I was in the FDIC, in the federal government and the division of banking, I would have done a good job, and I would have been elevated, and God knows where I would have been in the whole Department of Banking or the Federal Reserve or whatever. But I didn't take it. So circling back to why I took the Boca Bank job is because the Boca Bank said, and by the way, this is talking to Arthur Bellis, said, by the way, we'll be paying for your membership to the Broken Sound Country Club. They have 2 premium golf courses, and we'll pay the $20,000 initiation fee for your golf membership and all your dues, as a golfer at the Broken Sound Country Club. I remember telling Marilyn that. That's $20K. I don't have to pay. Plus, $1,000 a month in, dues and greens fees and all that stuff. They pay that too, because I'll be entertaining clients. Oop, there's a tick. Do not get bitten by a tick. So the golf membership kind of swayed me. Stupid idiot. It's not like I'm that good a golfer, I think I got to 12 handicap maybe. On a real good month, it might have been 10. But when you add it up to all my other lousy scores, it was like 12. But, there was a 6-month period where I was playing right at a level of about 10 handicap. Yeah, but didn't stay there. Anyway, golf was not that important to my life. I'd rather play tennis anyway. All right, I'm doing a little speed check of my internet connection. And let's see. I think I'm about talked out here. It's 9:48. Started at 8 in the morning. Or 8:0123. You've heard a little bit about my almost being hired by the FDIC. They wanted me. I had a negotiation with them, so to speak, on the phone, which they just delivered. Mr. Wilson, we're pleased to announce that we're going to write you a letter of employment, and if you don't mind, my name is whatever her name was. I'd like to go through the terms and conditions upon which we're interested in hiring you. And if you like these terms and conditions, we'll fly you to Dallas, where you can meet, the senior person in the region, in the Dallas Federal Reserve region, in the division of banking, and that'll be a condition of you having that interview. But we'll fly you out. It'll be all expenses paid. Round trip. You fly up in the morning, go home at night. You won't have to stay overnight. So he read through all the terms and conditions. So I told whoever it was, I said, well, thank you very much for giving me this information. Marilyn and I are going to review this information on Sunday. We're going to have our Sunday brunch, and I named the place. And I can't remember the place. It was out on Rocky Point Island. Anyway, it was a nice place. You go out on this island with your car, So I guess it's like a peninsula. I forget if there was like a bridge. I don't remember a bridge. But they called it Rocky Point Island anyway, even though it was attached to the Florida Peninsula, or in the Tampa market. Anyway, I lived in Tampa. And I said, we'll be going over there for our traditional Sunday brunch from 10:30 to about 2:30 or 3, and we're going to go over this, carefully, because obviously she's going to come too, right? Yeah. It's going to be relocation. You pay for the relocation. So I'm going to go over this with Marilyn Sunday. So this is like a, Friday afternoon or evening when she gave me these results that they, on one of the candidates they want to hire. And we have very strong interest in you, Mr. Wilson. I mean, she said that like 2 or 3 times. I said, that's marvelous. I really appreciate that. I said, Marilyn and I will discuss this on Sunday, and I'll get back to you, I guess, Monday morning, some between 9 and 10 a.m. on Monday. Would that be fine? She said that would be fine. Thank you very much. So we hung up the phone, and then, this is Friday evening, and then I got a call back on Saturday. Now this is like, this is a government office, and they called me on Saturday morning before the Sunday thing where I'm going to discuss their offer. And she said, we've decided to increase the compensation that let me tell you, we've made the deal better for you. And she gave me all the deal terms that were better. She said, we're going to hire you in as a 15-2 instead of a 14-10. So that makes you management. And the pay level will be whatever it was, $110,000 a year, I think. We're going to pay your expenses. We're going to do your move. We'll, I remember I had a little pushback, on the number of trips that Marilyn and I would fly back and forth, with the whole relocation thing. We're going to increase your trips for you and your wife. You come back and forth. We'll pay, for the tickets. You'll have three opportunities to come back and forth from Tampa to Dallas. So we increased that from 1 to 3. So I wrote down all these new terms and conditions, and I said, well, I really appreciate you bringing me up to speed on that, because we are going to be discussing this on Sunday. So they gave me a raise just because I didn't bite harder enough at the apple, I guess. They figured they better sweeten this offer. I don't want to lose this guy. So that was a real good indication. They wanted to hire me big time. So, geez, damn. Oh well. So I hope you enjoyed me going through that. Oh boy. Life presents you with these forks in the road. Do you take this turn or that turn? I should have taken that turn, actually. If I had it all over again, I would have taken that FDIC job. That could have been very interesting. And, you stay there and you get, all the government benefits and the retirement and the this and that and pensions and, But I didn't do it, you silly bird. But I had other opportunities, and they turned out to be okay. Good, actually, very good. All right. 9:55, so I'm going to be done before 10. How about that? This starting at 8 is good. My internet connection, CyberGhost actually helped that out. I couldn't get connected, but as soon as I activated CyberGhost, it cracked through all the modem and I got to the servers. So this broadcast, which is a simultaneous broadcast, by the way, as most of you know, it's on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live. And my handle is the @ FAU4U. I've been on the faculty at FAU, Florida Atlantic University, for, since 2003. So that's 22 years. 22 years ago, can you imagine? Whew. Wrote a book, got it published in 2003, got it. They did a second edition in 2007. Principles of Digital Photography and Post-Image Processing. That's the name of the book. Yes, sir. Published by Pearson Education. Anyway, so I'm pretty good at this internet stuff. I'm a technology kind of a person. But there's a lot of stuff I don't exactly know, and this one had me stumped. I tried every trick in the book to try to get my MacBook, to connect up into the internet. And if something changed, I don't know, it was a firmware update with the modem, something changed. That was out of my control on Friday, sometime Friday. And Saturday, I was off the air. I couldn't get the internet going. And I could get my iPads on the internet, but I couldn't get my MacBook. Different operating system, and it just wouldn't connect to the streaming servers. So I went to CyberGhost and I said, let me load up CyberGhost. It's on my iPads and my iPhone. Let me get CyberGhost on my MacBook. And if I can click on it, yeah, you can't see it on the control screen. I showed it to you on the iPad. There it is. And it got right through. I said, oh my God, that's magical. What the heck? So for some reason or other, I turn off CyberGhost so my MacBook will not somehow or other get onto, it won't broadcast to the servers it needs. Because this is streaming, and it's, multi-channel streaming to 3 different social networks simultaneously, live broadcast. Now those social networks not only broadcast this live, but they make a copy of it. So any of us can go back to it now or later on or tomorrow and listen to the broadcast from the beginning. So if you tuned in late, you came in at 9 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, for example, you listen to me as of 9 o'clock. And then, in the afternoon or before lunch, you could go back to the beginning and listen to the first hour of what I had to chat about. Anyway, so you remember, this is like a coffee clutch we're having together, and we could be talking about anything. Whatever comes to mind is the way I label this, because it could be technology, it could be digital imaging. Sometimes I do image editing online here, so you can see how I image edit. Right here on my iPad, I'll edit an image, and you can see that, how to change the way a digital image, pops up on your screen as you look through your pictures. Yeah, fantastic. All right, I'll let you go. You have a nice lunch, and it's Wednesday, so it's what we used to call hump day. You're past. This is you got working 5 days, for example. You got Monday, Tuesday under your belt. Wednesday, when you got 3, after today, you got 3 out of 5 days done. Well, we've got 2 days and a half, so you're right about the midpoint of the week, and then after that, it's all downhill. Nice ride downhill on your bicycle. First 2.5 days of the week, you're riding up to the top, and you get to the top of the mountain, Wednesday about noon. And then after that, it's all nice downhill rolling. Okay. I'm going to give you some Epidemic, and I'm going to stop talking, and I'll see you, same time, same channel. If you go, I don't know where you're at. Try, if you're not doing YouTube Live, try YouTube Live. You can do the search at, the @ FAU for you. There's no connection between FAU and this channel or this conversation, other than the fact I picked those 3 letters because I've been teaching at FAU for a long time. And FAU, the number 4, and the letter U, FAU for you. Pretty cute. And I've used that for a number of different, and that's my handle at Facebook Live, the @ FAU for you, so you can search it. If you need to be a friend in order to read it, see it, or whatever, send me a friend request, and I will friend you if that's what it takes. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.